Well, for those that are here, welcome to our October edition of our Kentucky K-12 CIO and EdTech Leaders webcast. For those that are joining us remotely, thank you for joining us as well. This will be a very abbreviated version of the webcast. We did send summary notes to you this morning. Last month was extensive, as was the month before that, so I encourage you to read through those summary notes and copy and paste them as you can. We're going to have a few topics, and we're going to leave it open for question and answers if you have those kind of things. We'll open up with our additional budget requests to improve and increase the KETS funding. It is really crucial that we go full court press from all angles, including from the school district perspective. I shared with you before what we're doing at the state level. Our Kentucky Board of Education made it a top 4 priority to increase the funding. Our commissioners committed to that, but the key component, one of the main reasons I want to talk to you about it, is you all. You all having that discussion with your superintendent, your chief financial officer, and it can be as simple as, we know all the superintendents want to increase the SEEK funds. That makes a lot of sense. But also, as they're talking with their fellow superintendents and their legislators, they need to mention the increase in the Kentucky Education Technology System KETS funds as well. We have reached a point of crisis with those funds. We have been a great steward of those taxpayer funds. We have never gotten a cost of living increase since 1992, when the KETS program was birthed. Like a lot of things across the country and state and federal organizations, when there was a housing crisis, is our budget got slashed tremendously. It has never been restored. But new services have been asked of us, especially when you had the pandemic and folks took off the tools and they've not stopped using those tools. So the conversation, and it's as simple as with your superintendent, of talking about the impacts to you all. The impacts to you all, and I keep on seeing in the top 5 feedback, is the importance of the KETS offered assistance. If we do not get that additional funding request, that will be impacted with certainty. There is no longer where places we can absorb these cost of living impacts and not have you all feel it. And you'll feel it. So we're hoping to make you motivated to address that. There's also services that will stop, that we can no longer fund them. Flying at the state level, without a doubt, we say 50 to 60% on what you would pay yourselves. That cost, that will be shifted to you. You will increase by 50 or 60%. So as you're talking with your superintendent, your chief financial officer, and hopefully then with legislators, other superintendents, we want to make sure they understand the financial consequences of doing nothing. So that's obviously one of the options of doing nothing. But it can be as simple. It doesn't have to be a big presentation. You do your board, you do your superintendent, but you say, listen, I want to make sure you understand this KETS funding and the KETS funding to you all and the KETS funding to the district and the financial impact it has. So we spent a lot of time, we'll continue to spend a lot of time on it as a spending session starts here in January. We are definitely doing our part of working with legislators, but I'm telling you, my 33 years, there is no bigger difference it makes to getting something done than the district asking for it. We can do it, but it really counts on you all playing your role. And it can be really a small role as far as constantly bringing it up to your financial officer and your superintendent on the impact. So as they're talking with, once again, their legislator or their fellow superintendents in the co-op meetings, it gets traction and it gets a buzz. So it's really super important. And probably anything that we're talking about in this webcast is that one as we're approaching it. We have done everything, and you can guarantee from the Office of Education Technology perspective, we will pursue every angle, talk to every possible person to try to do it. But if there is silence in districts, it won't be done. So do your part. I'm asking you to do your part to help us get this across the finish line. And this is a great legislative session to do it. The Auditor of Public Accounts did the most extensive, I guess, investigation of any public organization in my time in Kentucky state government of the Department of Education. And I have shared with you all in the summary notes the 6 sentences that identify KETS as one of the shining stars in Kentucky state government. And so we have been tremendous stewards of taxpayer funds. We have made a significant an overwhelming difference over the past, 34 years since the birth of KETS in 1992. And so that is, you can use that as leverage to folks, say, we know what we're doing with this, and we do good stuff with it. And the Auditor of Public Accounts, supports that. So I put those 6 sentences in the summary notes for you to take a look at. And hopefully you use those in your justifications. We also got, on a separate subject, the feedback from you, and we get this every year. We actually use this during the legislative session, amongst many other things, the digital readiness of our school districts. There's no other state in the nation that does an extensive feedback on this than we do here in Kentucky, financially and operationally, the feedback from all of our school districts. And we get it 3 different ways. We get it financially. We get the top 5 feedback that comes in December to see if we're on the right path. We also kind of get the inventory of things, the stuff and the people. And so in the November version of our EdTech Leaders webcast, we will be going over the preliminary results that we've received from all 171 districts collectively and what that information means and doesn't mean going forward. Obviously, this will be very valuable to us in the legislative session, but I point a lot of folks to that as we go forward. Marty, is there anything else you'd like to say about the digital readiness?
Yeah, thank you, David. How we doing? Everybody good? Awesome. So we're doing something really cool. Number one, with the digital readiness work that you all have invested your time, energy, and effort in. This is probably the highest quality digital readiness responses that we've ever had. And so thank you for investing in that work. It is so valuable and so important to us. You may not be aware, but if you're new to a EdTech Leader webcast, thank you, Cast, for letting us borrow your logo for today's fun play on our webcast. But every month we do a webcast for EdTech Leaders. For this month, it was scheduled to be earlier this week, and we thought, what would be super cool? Let's do it at the Kisti Fall event. So, if you're not aware of that, we are broadcasting live today. We have about 100 folks from districts and all throughout the state, as well as our partners, join right now live. So we'll spin the camera around later on, or actually right now. Let's do that. Are you okay if we do that? We take a minute here. Everyone say hi. Awesome. So lots of folks in the room, but David, part of the digital readiness work that we're engaging in, like you said, the inventory work. Let me just make sure that there we go. The inventory work that we do, the people side of the work, and then also our student voice part of the work. So the other component of digital readiness that we have going on right now is districts working and volunteering to participate with Project Tomorrow and our Speak Up work. And so that is a really important part of digital readiness. So it's not just inventory, it's not just the people to help support the education technology, but it's also how our students are interacting and engaging with the technologies. And if you're a district that is already doing that work, and Ben Maynard is helping lead that, raise your hand real quick. Awesome. So about 20 districts so far. If you are interested in that and you would like to use student voice to help drive why we're doing what we're doing, the value of education technology, it is well worth your time. It is a strong message. The stories that you can push forward deeply connects with the budget conversation that we just had.
Yep. So I told our staff that we have a Office of Education Technology team huddle every month as well. And I think I've said this, but it probably needs to be said again with our connected user experience queue system. In my years since 1992, the birth of KETS, there is not a more, we have never had a larger, more complex, and more meaningful initiative than that. Now think about all the things we've done. For those who've been around us for a while, since 1992, and we're the pioneer national leader in nearly every aspect of education technology that says something. And a lot of it is we're bringing all these different systems together for the very first time that we put in place in 1992 to create a much more secure but a much more efficient environment for our students, teachers, and staff. And so those that have made that transition, I appreciate those early adopters that have gone down that path. We had even early adopters before that did it before we were doing it statewide. So definitely we appreciate those folks. But this will be a foundational piece for the next 20 or 30 years. And so it is truly one of those all hands on deck kind of thing of bring it together. It cleans up processes and systems that probably and data that probably needed to be cleaned up a long time ago. And as we've done major initiatives over the past, 34 years, we do find certain things have been done away, something for a long time, need to be changed. And you're also trying to, as everyone gets near the finish line or at the beginning of the finish line, but those of us near the finish line of what we do, you want to leave it much better for the next 10 or 20 or 30 years. You're not just trying to play it safe and say, I want everything to remain the same while I'm here, because you're really trying to position your organization, but is really the best for everyone else, even though it may cause you great pain. You're trying to look for the next 10, 20, or 30 years. And so I do appreciate all those that are involved with the financial system, student information system, from those that are heavily involved with the Active Directory, the email system, all these different things that we are tying together for the very first time, and all the different people. I know my equivalent in North Carolina, when they were doing identity automation, they had said, and I'm pretty sure I said this last webcast, is the most difficult part is the people part of this. And one of the more difficult parts in organizations was their HR staff, the change. But I can also remember in the early days of Munis implementation, when we went from one version to the other one, and people had to actually touch different parts of the keyboard, that was a really big deal. I mean, you're dealing with people with change, and it is hard. It is super duper hard to do that. So this is going to be super duper hard for a lot of different folks, but the payoff is tremendous for those way beyond your years in that organization, for the students and teachers. And so I appreciate those who are going full court press on that. Marty, is there anything you'd like to say about Fuse?
Yeah, so I think it's again, an interesting opportunity for us today to think about a year ago at this event. We had our partner in front of all of you, in front of our district leaders for the first time, and spent a significant portion of the day a year ago as we were launching into the design and future implementation. Today, we have 36 districts that are live using Qs, using rapid identity with our partner. And you 36 districts who are live, as you already said, but I want to also say thank you. This is, as David said, I think it's really important for us to continue to remind, this is super complex and some of the hardest work we've ever done. But the value and payoff is some of the best value that we've ever invested in. So extremely important for you 36 to help pave the way for everybody else. If you are in cohort 2 and you're starting to think about the work, then you're going to want to become super good friends with one of these 36 districts. This morning, and I'm looking at Randy right now, I've already had 4 or 5 different conversations with districts who are live. And the ebbs and flows of working and getting through the work, but ultimately seeing where value is. It's not perfect yet, and there's still work to be done. But that's very important. Also, worth mentioning that AWS had a little issue on Monday. What does that matter for Qs and the Qs initiative? We got to see our partner respond and really implement some failover strategies. And we've checked with several districts and had really good authentication and provisioning flow, even with when other systems were having trouble. Again, not perfect, but we did get to see that and get to see that functionality work through from a failover perspective. So for Qs, that was very important. It wasn't like we planned that test, but we got to test it.
Chuck Austin, who's actually traveling back from Gardner, he's not avoiding this group. He's traveling back. He gave me an analogy, which I won't go into details, but when he was a young boy, one of his earliest jobs was doing some really hard work out in the racetrack and doing certain tasks that were really, really hard for a boy his age to do. But the payoff was positive on the other side of this. This is really hard work. We know that. We understand that. But once again, my view has always been trying to do things way beyond myself, knowing I may cause chaos to myself and attention to myself. unfavorable attention, but trying to do the right thing for folks for the future. So just trying to keep that in mind. You're trying to position folks way beyond yourself, but that's a really good experience for them. And that's what we're trying to do with it. And that it really just gives a great opportunity to do that. The other thing we have up is Shane, you've had a discussion about AI. AI is almost every kind of possible discussion, including with the legislature. And Marty and I recently presented to the legislature on artificial intelligence. But the time is pretty good for us to take a re-look at some of our academic standards that involve technology. The pure technology standards, the computer science standards, and the library media standards. And so there's going to be a lot of eyes on those, and we've asked for participation from folks as we kind of go down this path over the next several months of modernizing those. Obviously, it's going to have an AI flavor to all those. And to be honest with you, AI is probably going to be needed in a flavor of all the academic standards beyond the technology part. Now, we talked years ago when technology, I just remember when the calculator, I was using that calculator example many years ago, by the way, is just trying to get folks ready and understanding that this is going to be part of their daily life. They're using this tool no matter what the subject area is, just not pure technology. And I would say, when I was taking computer science courses in high school and in college, I did not take an artificial intelligence course. But in my early years in the U.S. Army, I was doing artificial intelligence because it gave me the basics of how to do the fundamentals of how to do artificial intelligence versus a pure artificial intelligence course. So those are developing, those that are using artificial intelligence. Those are two different groups. And obviously the computer science standards will address more of the creation part. And then the technology one, those are using it. So those will have big flavor of it going forth. And we do appreciate the districts that are going to help us with that creation. I am sure once again in this upcoming legislative session, artificial intelligence is going to be discussed again. I suspect we're going to be going and presenting to them again and just giving an update. But I can tell you that, for example, the feedback we get from you, the top 5 feedback is just so valuable. That's due here probably in the December timeframe. But also when we have the spring event, the CAS spring event, when we do the summit, the CIO summit, that has been tremendous because the past 3 summits we spent time on AI. And I've given that feedback to folks to see where districts are at versus them polling and surveying you. We already have that information and a good feel for it. So we're going to continue to go down that path. I think AI has impacted everybody's future, as did technology did, as did the calculator. I'll tell you one story for you tell it is when I graduated from West Point in 1983, it was the early years that you could use a calculator in math classes. And so I saw the added value of that. You're learning the basics of it, but I'll never forget this is on graduation day, the amount of calculators that had a bayonet stuck through them on the door of graduating seniors, as if they were never going to use a calculator again, right? So obviously throughout their life, they found out that just because, in college they were forced to use it, they was going to be part of their life going forward. AI is going to be similar to that. AI is going to be part of folks' life going forward. We got to try to prepare them as much as we can. And that's why we spent a lot of time on it during the CIO Summit, trying to understand where districts are at on that topic. You know anything about the academic standards, Marty?
Yeah, I'm trying to visualize a bayonet going through AI. It's like scene from the Matrix. Just some details about the.
By the way, Chuck gives me a hard time. I wanted to graduate. I was really interested in graduating, and sticking a bayonet, putting a bayonet through the knife of a calculator, stick it to your classroom door. If they would have caught that, you would not have graduated. You'd spend a little bit more time there paying the consequence of it. So Chuck calls me a wimp for not putting it on there. So I still have my graphic calculator, by the way.
I am super glad that you graduated. So it's just some quick details about the Kentucky Academic Standards. If you are interested in participating, if you are a technology expert and you love building and making technologies, that is our Kentucky Academic Standards for computer science. This current set is the first inaugural ever computer science standards that we've had. So right now we are in our first revision series. So in all 3 of the academic standards that David mentioned. The academic standards for technology, computer science, and library media. We are in the revision cycle, and that's legislated. There's a process that we follow. But number one, we ask for feedback. Do you have any feedback on those sets of standards? And number two, we're asking for applications if you want to be on the revision team, the team that helps revise those standards. The process is going to be pretty clear. It works really well. It works just like the reading and writing standards, the mathematics standards, the science standards. It works exactly the same, and we'll manage that process. We will discuss this later on today a little bit as well, but Laura Raganos is leading our Kentucky Academic Standards for Technology revision. Sean Jackson is leading our Kentucky Academic Standards for Computer Science revision, and James Allen is leading the Library Media Standards revision. So see them if you're interested. So it's a call to action. Is really the moment for today. If you're online or in the room of the 250 folks that are here today or so, call to action, reach out, get engaged in that work. If you are interested and you think you can help and add value, please do that. Those teams are forming right now, and we'll start the process once we fill those teams.
Last item we have is the Student Technology Leadership Program. A little bit update on that. So we, Jeff. I'm always marketing STLP.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you. Absolutely. We are getting ready right now for next week will be the deadline. Next Wednesday is the deadline for our schools, for all of our projects. The schools that are participating in the STLP project cycle. Registration for regionals closes next Wednesday. Numbers are looking really, really good. We're excited about that and seeing that happen again. Then in November, we'll have our all virtual online regional again. Anybody in the room, we definitely would love to have your help listening to students give their presentations. I'm in late November. Spend the morning with students online, recharge your batteries, spend a little bit of time getting excited, remember why we're doing what we're doing. Here's some great things. We just, last week, we were in Morgan County, and we got to see they had a district-wide project fair, and they invited us to come in, and it's awesome. It just fills you up, and it's just really, you're filled with the great things that you know the kids are doing that sometimes we get separated from because we're worried about E-rate and Qs and trying to make HR do what we need them to do and all that fun
Easy turbo.
Help us out, see some kids in action, remember why we're doing stuff. I'm looking forward casting to our state championship. And then in between, of course, we have our creative digital arts competitions, which will, there'll be a deadline in January for that. We can, of course, do some, if anybody wants to look at some online products and help give some feedback to the students to help us find our state champions, who we will then crown on April 24th, right back here at Central Bank Center in Rupp Arena for the STLP State Championship. It's a Friday this year, which everybody, the feedback said, let's give Friday a shot. Friday a shot. We'll see what happens. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, this group's going to be wall-to-wall kids and robots.
Yeah, so that's right.
Yeah, it's time for sitting here. Yeah, this is going to be great. So thank you all for your support. For everyone in the room, we know that we only are as strong as you and you're giving support to our STLP groups, making sure they can get to events, making sure they have the opportunities to participate, but also making sure they have the tools that they need to show off the things that they want to show off. So thank you for everyone for supporting STLP, and hopefully we'll see you at some of the big events coming up.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
I didn't want to leave a little time. We have a few minutes, and maybe just go straight to lunch. Is there any kind of questions this audience has? We have all of our OET leadership team here. They must not speak. I know Mike Cunningham, the PD Connors here. So is there anyone that has a question for us while we're here or online? I know it's kind of awkward to ask a question in front of a group, so I get it. But if someone has that, you have folks here that we can talk about the topics we already shared, or something else you have a question about. Everybody's looking like
You mentioned lunch.
Yeah.
That did. Yeah.
Well, that's right. We're not that pressing. Just wanted to give you that opportunity in this setting. We'll be around. So if you want to ask it more one-on-one. But thanks for joining us in person. Once again, thanks for joining us online, and we'll see you in November. Take care.